Good morning and welcome back to the Coin King channel. I'm your host, Down the Crypto TA. Kind of a rough start this morning. I've been sitting here watching the market just kind of tumble all morning, actually. Got up around, I don't know, maybe 1, 2 o'clock, something like that. No, actually earlier than that. But it's kind of rough this morning. We're, um, we're really just getting deeper into this zone which I'd been looking at, and some of the notes that I shared in here. I said to keep an eye out on the 97.5 to 95,000, just because we had to, because there was a lot of interest building up down there. I can tell you off the bat this morning already that has shifted greatly, and and when I say that, I'm talking about the sentiment in the market has shifted quite a bit because I can see the open interest has also shifted quite a bit, where 95,000 was a strong area of interest. It has decreased a lot. It's decreased a lot, and what I'm seeing the spike at, where I'm seeing the spike at, is coming from 85,000 now. So um, it can mean a lot of different things. It's definitely a level of interest. If the market is feeling super super bearish, it may indicate that's the next target. Um, yeah, that may be the next target here that we could be looking at. That shakes things up a lot. Like we're already in a bad position here on the monthly time frame. Monthly, because it was 30 to 31 days, and sometimes 28, 29, whatever. We'll just say 30 days. There's still plenty of time. We still have half of the month left to reclaim um, above that $102,000. However, at the moment, we are expressing the RSI below 60, which tends to lead to more downside. So I'm seeing some things already back in their bear market territory, and that could be the case for Bitcoin here as well if we're not managing to reclaim. So I don't really want to jump the gun too harsh here in terms of what price action is going to do, because there's interest to the upside as well. I mean, but we just don't know what's going to happen first. If I had to guess, then I'm just going to have to lean towards the lower, more downside here in the moment. I'm going to make some adjustments here. That I didn't have here before. I just wanted to wait until I got you on stream here and then did that. But let me just show you here. So you can use something like Deribit. That's good for seeing where, strike prices and things like that are. And just, interpret that. Or, I mean, you can use CoinGlass as well. So I'm using CoinGlass right now. So I'm just going to put us on that CoinGlass chart here. And so here on CoinGlass, you can see where some of the strike prices are at, the immediate strike prices here. Now this was the 100,000 right here. This used to be your largest area of interest right here. 100,000. That has reduced significantly. I mean, we're well below that at this point, but it has reduced significantly. And then this ended up getting a huge spike in interest here at the 95,000. Now you can see that this is not even the biggest, the largest strike price at all. It's now this 85,000. So it's a little bit concerning. I did see the three of these rising beforehand, but still, just this morning, simply just this morning, about, I don't know, maybe 3, 2 o'clock, something like that. This was still the largest, had the largest histogram bar right here at 95,000. And just that quick, in a matter of 2 hours, it is not the largest anymore. It is now this 85,000. So it is a little bit concerning to me here with Bitcoin. Boy, I ended up taking a long position myself. I'm back in a long, but I took a long this morning. After we took the liquidity and we hit the 97.5, I took a long and I got stopped out. So I've already taken one hit this morning, losing a little bit of money, and I've re-entered since we did end up dropping a lot lower. But I'm going to continue to watch this. This is something that you can also continue to watch. And I'm just looking at open interest by strike price here on CoinGlass, and you can, you know, see which one of your histogram bars is rising and dropping and where your interest is coming in. And you can also use Deribit so you can see um, a little bit different, maybe a little bit more complex. You can see it. Uh, it's a little bit different. Well, the one that I'm looking at right here, but they're, they have the histogram as well with the strike prices and stuff like that. But both are free. Both are free to use. I also use, well, you won't be able to see, you can see the ETF information, but that's coming from bar chart, and just kind of line that up. Which they have a free version for that. I have the paid version, which gives you a little bit more data. But since we're not talking about the ETF right now, I'm just gonna, it's not looking the juiciest. Just just saying, it's really not looking the juiciest right now. All right, so I'm gonna adjust this. Let's see. Put this to 106. I'm gonna put this to I think I got it set for, is it 85? Yeah, 85. That's want to be sure. All right. So this is, we've already dropped below these points over here, so I'm gonna have to change these as well. Geez, Louise, it's pretty bad. I will come back to this part over here. I don't want to sit here and try to do all that. I did just kind of wanted to wait and change out the max pain and then the flush level in here, which anywhere between that $85 to $80,000 is going to be intriguing for price action here. You can see that we're slightly below the 60 in here. It was something that I did discuss earlier on. Really couldn't tell what it was going to do when it got here, but earlier on I did mention the fact that here with the fib levels here, it did a pretty perfect test of the 50 here. Here it dropped in a little bit more instead, in between the 50 and the golden pocket. And so I was saying here they might actually want to get it down into the golden pocket this time. And, since each time it did drop a little bit lower, but it never really disrespected this level here, and we still have time to see how that's going to go here on the week, about 2 days. But I cannot say that I feel optimistic in any sort of way whatsoever. um, I did notice some wicks on like the 1 hour time frame, which could be showing that this area is trying to be supported at least around the 95,000. That could still, they still could be trying to support the price there, and the lower targets just for hedging. Um, we're still respecting uh, this lower trend zone here. We're still respecting this at the moment. We start to lose this, I get a little bit more panicky. That'll be outside the $95,000 area when that happens also, here. And 85 might be so on point. And then we met the measured move of the head and shoulders as well. So we had this little head and shoulders right here. I marked it out, but I marked it out here on this time frame here. So this is what I had on the chart coming back yesterday was this. So we've already done this and exceeded it. This was the prior day low right here. So I was looking to see if price couldn't get back above this prior day low. That hasn't happened yet. But it was a nice reaction a couple of hours back on this dip right here. This is actually the one that caused me to get stopped out of my position here before deciding to re-enter because of the reaction on this candle. But my position size, it is a lot less. It's a lot less than I had it before. The RSI has been holding here, so it does have a little bit of bullish divergence, which is not going to make much of an impact at the moment, seeing this bullish divergence here, especially if we don't come up aggressively. It's just going to put in bear divs at that point, and we'll continue to see prices decline. So if you're looking to get long, you just need to know that it is a huge risk to get long at this moment, but it has been holding it. It's been holding here pretty well at the trend line here. I was going to move this yesterday, remember, and I decided I wouldn't do that. I would just, I would continue to use it because this drop would have been way too low, and I don't want to see the RSI going below this point in here. So we could maybe this wick here holds us enough to see some sort of a little bounce and then continuation to the downside. For Bitcoin, I guess it all just depends on what the market is feeling like, general market as well. It's feeling like this morning. Yesterday was everything started selling off for the most part in traditional market yesterday due to the uncertainty. We got the government shutdown is done, but some data may not be released, and that is the reason why the market started selling off a bit extra, along with the fact that it's heated. I mean, the markets are overheated, but the uncertainty was the biggest catalyst behind the reason prices were selling off yesterday. Not having all the data. All right, I'm gonna look at Ethereum. I did check it overnight as well. Coming in here to this morning, and it's holding up relatively well. It has not broken below its low here, so it's holding up really well here in this zone. Solana is a whole nother story because it is not holding up very well. But that was something that we talked about early on as well. Its performance against Ethereum and its performance against Bitcoin has just not been great. So Ethereum here, this is the actually, let me check ETH and see if anything much has changed here. No, Ethereum still looks the same. 3,000 could still be a thing, which is going to be down here towards the lower end down here of this zone here. But so far, like I said, it has not. And let me just slide that in a little bit so I can get that X out of the way. It has not dropped below. It's low here. So that's pretty good for Ethereum. This information will remain the same. And this was posted a while back. So it's still relevant. I don't need to do anything here. EMAs are the same also. And EMAs can act as support and not act as support, which is why we were looking at it. For starters, this did rise up a little bit from where it was, but nonetheless, it's still here in the zone. It's the 200 down here. I think I may have, let me see. I had it exactly like this. Yeah, exactly like this. So the 200 will be in here in the next area right here. 60, 50% fib retracement. Everything is still the same in here. The volume node still the same in here. I'm sure that hasn't changed from yesterday. So that was just this zone here. Yeah, that's still the same. So we're underneath the large volume node at the moment. But that's fine. That's fine. ETH is not looking as rough as Bitcoin or as rough as Solana's looking, because Solana is looking pretty rough. Solana took out its prior low over here. And I mean, you know, everything I said about Sol, you know, bear market below 145, you know, it's at its bear market low territory. So it's not good. It's not good. And if we happen to get down here towards this ascending trend line here, this one here, and the platinum pocket, and it's not able to hold, really want to hold this trend line, it starts to break this trend line, I'm more convinced that we can see a bad sell-off on Solana, that the bear market lows will not hold. And we could see Solana back at lows it was before it got started with this rally. And you know, I'm one of those people who hold Solana, and it's been staked. So I would be riding this back down. I'd still be in profit if it came down here, but who likes to round trip their bags? Not me. But that could end up being the scenario for Sol, because the bear market territory is between 145.40 to 95.26, which is going to be this low right here, and we don't want to see this low be taken out. If it takes out that low, which, like I said, if it breaks down from here, it's already very concerning. And if it takes out that low, then I'm just gonna have to assume that prices get back down here somewhere around the $30 range here or so. Yeah. So like I said, back here with Bitcoin, I'm taking a chance, but it could continue to roll over as soon as markets open. It could continue to roll over. It might just be at a pause right now because the markets are not open. And since I reduced my position size, it has to move significantly for me to even recover what I lost this morning on that. I risked a lot more than I would usually risk, and as soon as it took me out, it bounced. It's crazy. Anyway, that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. That's really not going to change. Huge spike in the VIX, which I called out the VIX months ago, and we've been seeing it, you know, up, down, up, down, up at the moment. As we started seeing more of a sell-off yesterday. Solana versus Ethereum here on the trend line, trying to hold, but you just saw how well Solana is performing, which is not great. So this can get bad. And also against Bitcoin, terrible. We held the range here, and if we do start, so you see that we tapped into this this descending trend line here from this pattern formation here. This one here, this larger one here. And if it starts to break out of here, you know, that 85, 80,000, whichever, I mean, whatever starts to spike on that lower end, that's happening. I think somewhere around 70 something $1,000 is where Bitcoin enters its bear market territory. Around 70 something $1,000. And I think it goes down to It may have been around 50. If I didn't have those notes in there, that may have been what it was around. Or 35,000, one of the two. I have to look back at that and make sure I give you the right information. Um, just real quick. Okay, so 49. So it starts around 68, just about 70, 68, and comes as low as this pivot right here, which we should not see price action take out this pivot right here. But this is how it usually starts. Like I said, when we're having RSI read below 60, see how this bar is gray now? That's usually the start of your spillover. Sell off, 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 sell off. That's usually what it looks like. And that's what I shared with you yesterday. So, geez Louise. We had to remain above that 102, 102.424, 82. Otherwise, big money has to sell into the weakness. They will buy, squeeze above here. They will sell into the weakness below it. Yeah, so back over here with USDT dominance, it is at resistance at the moment, which is why Bitcoin found a little bit of support, because we hit the resistance point here. If it breaks this resistance, we have a problem. So again, I implore you to use your USDT dominance chart. You want to use this. And if you see it breaking out from here, and I'm just focusing on this trend line at the moment, not even the full zone, but if you see it breaking out from here, then it can be disaster for Bitcoin. But at the moment, we're at it, and it's giving Bitcoin a little bit of support at the moment because we're at it. Okay, it was the same situation when we were down here, and every time we hit down here, I didn't take a short, but I shared with you that USDT dominance was at support and Bitcoin was at resistance. So you could take that information and do what you want to do with it. I'm just here to share the information, not encourage you in which direction you need to take your position, not saying that you need to follow anything that I do. But it's at resistance right now until it's not. And if it ends up breaking here, then it will continue forward. Okay. Total coin market cap. Not looking too shabby at the moment. So Bitcoin dominance may not be rising a whole lot. And just Bitcoin for the most part is affected. And Solana, it seems. But yeah, this basically looks the same. So altcoins cannot be, from just looking at this, altcoins are holding up pretty well against Bitcoin at the moment. And here's the dominance chart over here. So yeah, this is just on a 1 hour time frame. At least it's coming up as Bitcoin is holding, so that's great. I'm usually on this daily or something like that. The top side is what you really want to look at. That's what I use. I draw it out as a box because sometimes price will come into it and then I have to look at it like that. But I'm usually using the top and the bottom. So dominance remains at a support level. And I did share that I thought that dominance looks pretty good in my opinion. I wouldn't say that it doesn't. I don't know why I have this in here or if I even need this. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Like I said, as long as it's holding here within the dynamic cloud, it has a lot of hope to continue pushing to the upside. So I can't get bearish on something when it's doing that. After this pop up and just a retracement and it continues to hold in here, it has some legs. You know, if it was doing something like this where it was on the outside of it like that, then I would say, yeah, dominance is going to continue to spill over. But right now, dominance is holding support. It's holding support. Oh, this is Ethereum. Jeez, like what the heck? Ethereum's holding support. I guess that's why it's looking rather good against Bitcoin, huh? Here we go. Bitcoin dominance. Let me put this on a. I think I was more so using the weekly time frame. It is holding too. It is holding too. So it's at resistance right now. So we've seen it spike through and whatnot here. I think on the daily, yeah, on the daily it's holding support, and on the weekly it's at resistance. But it's holding support, so I can't be mad at it. It is holding support, so I have to assume that it has the ability to come back up and hit um, this huge trend line here. And hit this trend line right here. It still has the legs to do that since it is still within the dynamic cloud. It has to lose this in order for me to get bearish on it, and it hasn't lost it yet. This could just be a back test, still a higher low. Still a higher low. Can just be a back test. So I'm gonna need to see it do more. So that's 59.94% right there. And then this low, we need to see it lose is 56.90 here on the weekly time frame. On the daily, it could be a temporary loss of support, which you do have the market structure change here on the daily time frame, but it is holding here, 59.69. Let me just look back over here at Ethereum since I was mistaking it, and I can see how pretty decent it looks. Okay. That's pretty decent. Ethereum continues to hold there. That's 11.88%. Continues to hold there, then great. Zcash has been holding up pretty well throughout this entire thing here. I know yesterday when I was looking at it, I was saying that it needs to stop hitting this low right here, because the more it hits this low, the more likely this low is to break. But once it broke it, it didn't continue bleeding out, which is good for anybody that's holding Zcash. It did manage to come back up, reclaim the area, and do this. I'm not in any Zcash position. And this is not going to be any good anymore, so I'm going to get rid of that. I think that was the previous day low. No, it's the previous day low. So let me just put, just in case price does decide it swoops down through here and reclaims, that'll be good. And that's what you want to see on Bitcoin. You want to see Bitcoin come back up, reclaim the daily low. And that's how we did it off of this bounce right here. This still looks pretty decent here over on this time frame. It did lose the momentum line through here. Not really anything is giving me any signals in here. And this is a daily time frame. I think this information here was coming from the 1 hour time frame because it was getting multiple drives of bearish divergence, which is why it continued to bleed out a little bit there. And it looks like it would do the same on a push up. I know that that was something that I did talk about yesterday, potentially a lower high in here for Zcash. And just come back over here to this chart instead. Yeah, it stayed around the 50%, not dropping back into these extremes as it was before. So that was the only thing for Zcash with me. Um, uh, like I was stating before, we got the one push up when I did enter into the long position here, that it had not broken above the 50 just yet. We were still trading below the 50 and we were putting in the bear divs trying to come up. And then once we broke above the 50, you can see we got a nice little push up right here. And then yeah, a lot of mess started happening in the market yesterday. And so far, this doesn't look bad over here. Again, working its magic against the rest of the markets. That's nice. RSI still isn't finding a lot of strength because it's not managing to get back into 70. Yeah. It's not managing to get out here in euphoria. You really want to see it at a euphoric state. If you want to see it, put in those big swings that it was doing before. You want to see it in euphoria. But it still looks pretty decent here. I can't focus on Zcash right now, though. I just can't. Resistance is around 528. At the moment. If it does manage to push into the cloud, then it might be able to do 580. And that could become resistance. Usually when it starts to break through, though, it breaks out. It's not postured in a way that will give me the sense that it's going to do that. At least not yet. But it has been going sideways here for a little minute, which is good for it. Let me look back at this 4 again, see if there's any sort of a range or anything like that. Nope. Yeah, it still looks pretty decent. Let's just move forward here and see what today is going to bring. All right, NVIDIA. And this is what I was looking at yesterday, saying that maybe the 180 doesn't get revisited again and could look for an entry there, which was around where the initial entry was at. Could look for an entry there, and that 180 probably wasn't going to get hit again. I don't know that 180 is not going to get hit at this point. That is a bit lower there. I just know that they've been pinning price around the points that you see. And then yesterday I ended up adding this one here at the 220 because it's also a point of interest at 220, but 200 has been the main point of interest here. Lots of interest around the 200 here for NVIDIA. I just got this here just to see how it's going to do. But if it does start to lose that 180, it wasn't something that I was looking at afterhand. It was going to be somewhere down here. I have 175 here. Um, and that's what the notes were like. And that was the first position that didn't work. Was that one. And then the second one is the one that did work. And then just started looking at this yesterday. See what the market feels like when we open. And of course, if it gets above here, then you can see the change in the market structure. And I would start to look up around 220. Not a lot of put positions on NVIDIA, mostly call positions. So they just tend to keep it pinned around max pain. What else we got in here? Tesla, where I covered it yesterday, it did, sell off a little bit more. Got the measured move in here for the head and shoulders. Went over the money flow. How typically when money flow gets in the green, it's a tipping point for Tesla to pull back. So a lot of profit taking starts happening there, and we start to see it pull back a bit. And that's what I was looking at here. Like when the money flow gets in the green, and got a pair of divs in here, of course. When the money flow gets in the green, put the alert on here. Didn't take long for that alert to go off yesterday. It went off immediately. But you can see the money flow gets in the green. You tend to see some sort of a correction here on Tesla every time. So this is no exception apparently. And it got the little double top. So we'll see if this measured move plays out at least somewhere back down here towards 306. Let's see. And I think, let me just turn that on. Okay, so it's in the cloud at the moment. I don't think that, well, I know that the bands were going sideways. I haven't really seen like a squeeze situation here on Tesla. Not really. I knew that the bands were going sideways when I was looking at it yesterday, and yeah, they are expanding a little bit in here. In the V shape is what I mean, where the top goes up and the lower end goes down. At this point, I would continue to look for this to make its way down here and see if it doesn't play out this full measure move. At this point, that is what I would look for. RSI is in relative weakness, so that could be a thing. No, it's still neutral. It's still neutral. Yeah, it's still neutral. Circle, the two targets for Circle was 85 and 80. Hasn't quite hit the 80 yet because I still have an open order. I don't know what to think of this because it is absolutely horrific. Just continuing to sell off. That was the measure move for the head and shoulders here. Yeah. And basically the same thing, multiple drives of bear dips. You can see the bearish divergence, which is why price continues to move to the downside. because of the repeat bear divs. And then also RSI not moving above 50. So it's staying bearish to neutral. And that's it. Netflix holding up very well. So with Netflix, I know it was hitting resistance in here. At least from the EMAs, it was hitting resistance. Yeah. So you can see where it's hitting resistance at in here. But if it gets above here, above the 1,173 level here, then it's back into some really great strength above here. And then we can see it break out and potentially come back up here, revisit that 1405, or even push through it, whichever one, happens. But it's looking pretty good in here for Netflix as opposed to some of the rest of the market. Gold, I was talking about gold yesterday because I had this target here for gold, which you really can't tell what that target is, but I knew it was taking out these wicks right over in here. I knew it was taking that out. And then I was saying, we'll see if it wants to reject here. So far, it's holding up really well. So I can't say that it's going to get that move down here and come back into here, putting in a lower high, and then this being the target. The target down 36 to 33. I just say 34. Don't know that that's going to happen. I'll show it to you on the lower time frame as well. Don't feel like changing it there. Sorry, didn't mean to go backwards. So Amazon, again, just repeatedly rejecting here. This is the point where it reaches back outside of euphoria here at 250. So it just kept rejecting there. And this is target 1, which is why I have it shaded in. So let's see how it holds up here within target 1. If it doesn't manage to hold target 1, I'll be looking for target 2. But overall, I'm thinking like in the next 2 months, maybe prices will get down here. I'm still holding the position for now. So I'm optimistic of it. This line here was just the top here. So the flat top there, but it's back inside of this. Just holding on spot. Which I should have been taking profit because it was supposed to be a trade. I just did it on spot and I didn't take the profit from it. I don't know, maybe because I'm just looking at buying some more. That could be the thing. I was contemplating it yesterday and I said, but that was the long setup. Shared on X. This is the next one. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then I'm okay too. And this zone right here is down to 232.49. But oh yeah, the other thing I was saying too is since it's not able to break out of euphoria, it has a chance of coming down here to this 207. So breaking the momentum line through here, popping down here into the 207. That'll be a point you'd be looking for a bounce, probably put in a lower high, and then we see this happen here down to the next trend line there. So Google, I'm a little surprised by. I am a little surprised by this one. But I did. The only thing I really shared on this one is that there's a lot of interest up here around this 335. Quite a bit of interest there, but I'm gonna have to wipe that off the table. The thing was, we needed to hold within here. This is the harmony zone in here between that red and that orange. And now that we're below it, it increases the probability of prices getting down here to the 267. And if we don't see a bounce away from there, then it just starts to get a little bit worse here for for Google. Let me see if I have. I don't, but it's probably this right here where we'll see price come back to. That lower one, this one. Looks like a big move. And this would, of course, take a lot of time to happen if it happens. But yeah, since we're outside of this zone right here, harmony, it increases the chances of coming down here to that. And then we'll see if we can make our way down here to this first trend line here, which if this is double topping, probably sets it there. Okay, so sets it more so towards this one and there. Kind of like that. And time will tell if we do end up breaking below here and not managing to get back in. We'll see what happens today for Google. Yeah, still very healthy right now. Even though it's left relative strength and it's in neutral, it's still very healthy at the moment, very healthy. And that won't change until I see it somewhere down here below 40 here on the RSI. So not not bad. Not bad. Just watch that mid section right here. Make sure we don't see some measure move down there. And this is the goal chart where you can actually see the area that I had highlighted in here. And so when I saw this yesterday, I was like, it's pretty up there. It's pretty up there past my little zone in here. But it did eventually reject there. So we'll see if it's going to it's broken this momentum, reclaimed, and dropped back below it. I don't really like when I see that happening. I may have to move this down to here. I might have to. I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm going to leave it like that. If it is a true break, then I'll be looking for prices to come back down. And then that could indicate that we do see that move down there to those lower targets that I mentioned. But at the moment, it's still holding up pretty well. For gold, and if gold continues to pump up, then we know Bitcoin is in trouble. That just is what it is. And there wasn't really too much more that I needed to look at through here. Meta, it did stall out here. I was assuming that this could potentially have been the low here for Meta. I mean, you can always invalidate a bullish candle, but it was this daily candle right here for me. This daily hammer candle right here. There's still the dark pool orders. I have it here at 590 or something like that, to 588, something of that nature. I might need to go back in and look at it and see. It's supposed to be something like that. So just hoping that this right here was the low here for Meta. It may not be. It may not be. Just claiming it is at the moment. All right. Let's keep this simple today. I'm not gonna stay on and stream for hours today. I'm just here to get it done, cover the facts with you, and get out of here. Entire market pretty much red with the exception of Zcash. I know that I was looking at. I had some alerts set up here for Uni. I think the alerts were set up for Uni, and it may have been arrow drone as well. Okay, so this is something that we was looking at yesterday. Possibility of Uni coming into here and holding. It's in here now. I mean, even if I wanted to slide this out of the way, I wouldn't do it. I just let it do its thing. Usually, what I say, like I said yesterday, maybe see a break, come back and reclaim it. It has not done that yet. It hasn't done the break of this entire situation and come back in. That means come below the stop loss zone and come back into it. I just wanted to make sure. I want to be sure that this is an actual good level of support. Let me put this on the daily for just a second here. Nothing really. So one thing I don't like rising clouds. That makes this bearish. Okay. That makes the probability of this low. So don't do it. just don't just don't do it. In fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and slide it over out of the way. I just wouldn't do it. But this is something that I was looking at yesterday potentially. But now I see that the cloud is actually rising. It's probably not something you want to look at. Hey, if it breaks below here, comes back and reclaims or something like that, then I would get interested in it. Um, I just don't like that. This part right here, it can stall out, go sideways, flatten out, and kill whatever bearish energy is trying to give. But it's something that I would stay away from for now. I know it was Uni, and that was supposed to be the setup for Uni. And what did I look at down here? I don't know if I mentioned it or not. I think I may have because I said it was chopping. Yeah, I think I did. I said it was chopping that to the 1 hour. I think that's what I said. It was chopping at 1 hour. So you do want to see the RSI because I said we was looking for the bullish divergence coming down. I don't see any bear divs at the moment. I know that initially it did have bear divs in here. I don't see any sort of bearish divergence at the moment. That would indicate that it can't see a bounce somewhere around in here. But again, I would just kind of pause on it and let it break something. Let it break a pivot to the upside or let it drop a little bit more before I jumped in on it. I can't remember if we actually had the trend line in here yesterday or not. Which time frame is that showing up on? It's not 2. It's not 15. Okay, so that's showing up on daily. Oh, and that was just the bear div from this move up. And that was discussed earlier on this week. Uni has to hold above here, above the 650, 655, has to hold above there. Anyway, it wasn't looking too good. It was at resistance already. So Yeah, I know it was uni, and so I don't like the setup at this point. It's not going to be a good setup. And the other one was Arrow. Hold on, I don't have to do it like that. And the alerts continued to go off yesterday for Aerodrome. I may have passed it. I think I did pass it. Yeah, there it is. I know the alerts went off crazy for this one yesterday. I was waiting for this break below this point right here to look back at some sort of bullish divvies on it. Yeah, it broke everything from the momentum levels it had to maintain. Uh, that was the biggest thing, looking to see if it was going to respect the momentum line here to the downside. And it didn't do that. It broke the trend line in here, and now it's just rolling over. So, bad chart. This was the measured move that we were watching for right here. Yeah, okay. Now it's all making sense to me. So I had my alert set to hear when it did that and to see if we were going to get the bullish divergence. And we tapped into, not quite at that moment. It looked almost like we did for the measured move for the potential head and shoulder play in here. And yeah, and that would have been 88, 786. If it reclaims in here, then maybe. If it reclaims back inside of it, it could be good. But right now, how it is a no. Target. Oh, why is that there? I see something in here. That's weird. Get rid of this alert. None of this matters anymore. It's already broken through all of that. Probably keep this daily, which is pretty far from this daily level. So be looking for prices to possibly come back down here into the 78. That's it. You want to make sure it's not taking out this low in here, but yeah, 78 would be the return place for it since it was putting in these higher lows. Oh. Yeah, that's all you can do here. Wait for it to come back into support or either reclaim back inside this range above its daily level. If it does that, then it is showing a little bit of strength from the lower time frame here. But yeah, those are the two options here for Aerodrome. If you're interested in Aerodrome, I wouldn't be interested in anything given how Bitcoin is looking. All right, that pretty much sums it up for me for Bitcoin. And the head and shoulders came from this point right here. It came from this point. So you can see how I came to the conclusion of that measurement. And I'm even off a little bit right there. I can see it. Hmm. That's such a bearish spread here on the EMA ribbons. You know, the other thing we were talking about yesterday too. Actually, we talked about it beforehand, before and on Tuesday, about that 4 hour time frame, looking like it was just gonna completely nuke. And I kept saying it looks bad. It looks pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So the CC is what I kept running us back to. Hold on. Let me make sure I don't have a bunch of stuff opened out here, and I do, before I turn that on. All right. So the CC is getting pretty low. The signal line for the CC. This is generally a place where you do start to see some sort of a bounce come in. CC at the moment is just going sideways, so it's not even trying to rise here at the moment. Like right in here where you can see like the bullish divergence right here, and then it comes back up. But anyway, that's the thing right here. The thing that I kept sharing with you when we were looking at it on Tuesday was the fact that the CC was all the way up here around the 100. And typically when it gets up here like this and it breaks down below it, it's a pretty nice sell off for it. So just expect quite a bit of downside on it, at least until it gets back down here towards the negative 100 down here. Once it makes its way down here towards the negative 100, you tend to see it get some sort of a bounce. Once it gets down here. So we could have a bounce coming in, like I said, just kind of holding. Nice reaction from that point right there. Still don't take your eyes off of that 85,000. It is, with that increase in open interest there. Yeah, with that increase in open interest, don't take your eyes off of that. And so these are just, I have it highlighted in red here, and this is just the open interest areas right here. This one was not. This one is just based on, technical analysis, history, what it did the last two times, and looking forward to do that again. So we're holding up around this point, which is pretty nice for me, the 97.5. But it doesn't mean that these are not still good target point places right here, because open interest can change. People can, yeah, it all changes. Okay. So 95, 90, 85 being the strongest at the moment, and then 80. And so as it continues to update, this will continue to update. And what we want to see price back above is back above that 102, 429. If that's not happening, then we are just, really just looking for more downside, possibly even as low as getting down here into our bear market territory. We'll see some bounces in between then, just so you don't get excited about the bounces. We will see some bounces in between then. This could come back up and treat this as resistance again, which could end up being a place to go short if you're interested in taking shorts. Or if it drops down enough, let's just say it drops down here into 85, then 797.5 could become a resistance point for a short position, just depending on what we do right here in this zone. But that is basically all I have for you at the moment. Nothing more. Like I said, generally when it gets down through here, you do see some sort of a bounce out of it. That is what tends to happen from there. Even if it doesn't give you a ton, you see some sort of a reaction from it when it gets down into here. Be nice to see it with some bullish divergence. Since we're selling off so aggressively, that would be the thing for me. I would want to see it with some bullish divergence. But again, this is where it typically comes in at. And if it goes sideways like this, it's walking the line. It's walking the line. And the first push up you get, don't focus so much on bullish divergence because it's showing in here, at least on the RSI, between the low over here and where price is right now, that it has some bullish divergence. 1 hour is probably going to be a better example. So you can see the 1 hour showing the bullish divergence in here. Don't focus on that solely. On your first move up, whenever your RSI gets really bad, you should be looking out for your bear div. That should be the first thing you're looking out for. Because when you have an aggressive move to the downside, you have to have an aggressive move to the upside. If the move to the upside is not showing up aggressively, mean like you have some large girthy candles, then you're putting in bearish divergence for continuation to the downside. So do not overlook, and I see this all the time, so do not overlook the bear divs on any attempted move to the upside. Because you need to know to cut it. Just like my premature long, I know that when it comes up, it's likely going to put in some sort of a bear div, and I'm going to need to get out of it. If this is the moment where I'm going to start to see price get a bounce. If it's taking this out, I'm out. If it's taking out that, I'm out, because I know the potential of it for coming much lower. All right, I'll see you on the other side. In the chat, in the community, coin market community, X community, as new data comes in. I'll even post some of the charts in here, including the ETF one. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. And just see where we're at. No bullish divergence just yet here on the 4-hour time frame, with the exception of looking all the way back. But I am starting to like this right here, and just wait to see some sort of a change happening in here. Until then, lots of interest in here. And yes, that golden pocket, I don't really think much of it. I mean, I really don't. But maybe this still has a huge spread between these two. So maybe the bounce doesn't happen into here. Maybe we take out that little wick and then we do get that push down into here. Maybe that 90,000, since there's some interest around that 90,000 strike. And then bounce. I wouldn't count on 90,000 being a perfect tap if it's going to hit into 90,000. I wouldn't think of it as being the perfect tap. You know, I would expect for it to go over a little bit. Even the 95 strike, you expect for it to golden pocket is lower than that. So that makes sense. I would expect for it to freak some people out a little bit in here. All right. But again, there's still a nice spread between these two moving averages right here between this 60 and this 200. It's a nice spread between these two, which, you know, I don't see 80 happening just yet, but the markets will do big money, make it happen if they want to make it happen. I don't see that being the case immediately, but it's definitely a point of interest to be aware of. 85, 80,000. Okay. All right. Like I said, I appreciate you being here. Please do hit the like button. Lets me know that I'm appreciated. And I'll see you in the community. Thank you.